Hello, everyone, and welcome to Star Series Season 3, brought to you by StarLadder and iLeague. I am D2. With me is Lothar. Lothar, how are you doing on this happy Mother's Day?
All good, man. It is Mother Day. Crap.
Oh no, oh no. What have I done?
Well, I guess I need to fix something later on. But it is an
This,
exciting day of, exciting matches for me, especially since my buddy Thijs is playing 3 games today. So I try to not be biased, but it's pretty exciting for me.
yeah, absolutely. Hopefully, for your sake, Thijs can do pretty well today. This is also a reminder to all of you in Twitch chat to make sure you at least say Happy Mother's Day to your mother, because you wouldn't be here without her. But like you mentioned, a great slate of games today as we start off with Tice versus BunnyHoppor. Going to continue through Group A here, going with Nyria, Nyman, Frozen, Tice, Nyman, Tice, and Dr. Hippie Frozen. Then going on to the last match of the day, which will actually be in Group B between Show and Delay. So we're going to get through a lot of these results. The one thing that's missing from Group A is that Orange and Sixto still haven't played their matches because they're still in China, obviously,
Yeah.
participating in EU versus CN. But we're starting to get a bit of a hold of how this is going to shape out. Sixto and Orange excluded. Nyman in a great spot. On the other hand, Orange, or excuse me, Frozen is almost certainly already eliminated here.
That's
Lothar.
sad to see. I mean, he's the only one from America actually in Group A, and sad journey for him, right? I mean, is there any chance, like, if he goes still, like, if he wins every single match from now on, is there like a slightest chance of advancing?
It would have to be the most crazy of circumstances. I think he would have to get
Hmm.
second. There would have to be a 3 or 4 way tie.
Oh
And then
man,
from there, yeah, it's pretty crazy. Because if you think about it, in order to get out of the group, you have to be top two, right? And then
yes.
so
Then
that
you go
means
directly to the LAN,
yeah.
right?
Right. And so if you're number one, you figure, well, you're okay, you're 7-0. And so the second place person is 6-1, at least most of the time, right? And so you're looking at a situation where a lot of times, if you have those 3 losses, it's very hard to get in there. Certainly it's possible. His best chance at this point is to win every single match, like you mentioned, go something like 4-3, or perhaps 3-4, get in the third and fourth place spot, and then win the last chance tournament between the third and fourth place players.
Well, everything can happen, right? It's a card game. You can go on a crazy win streak against everyone and just blow everyone out of the water. Especially in the last chance tournament, so still it will be a double elimination tournament, right?
Mm.
So another chance for them. As you said, from both groups, 2 guys will be advancing to the land finals. 2 guys will be advancing to the double elimination last chance. So just keep your hopes up, and Frozen can make it, I guess, right?
Yeah, and apart from Frozen, who is in a bad spot, Nyman in an excellent spot at 3-0, Nyria at 3-1 there, whereas Bunny Hopper and Tice are kind of in the middle with Dr. Hippie bringing up the rear, with the exception of Frozen taking a look at the standings that we just mentioned. And so, yeah, looking right now, like Nyman and Nyria are in the best spot, but with only one loss to his name, your teammate there, Tice, can't does have still a great shot to get up there, and the same can be said for Sixto and Orange.
There's so many matches to be played out, right? Every single player will have to play 7 matches. So Nyman is not even like, halfway there. He can
Mm.
still lose 4 matches and then be 3-4 in the end, right?
Yeah, the
It
the
can
fact of
happen.
the situ yeah, the fact of the situation is that because you need to get top two, you can put yourself out of the race very quickly, but
Hmm.
even if you win a lot, you're still not all the way there.
Yes, exactly. And for Group B, we'll have actually the Virgin match today between Show and Zalay. So that'll be quite exciting as well to see the guys how they will pair against in the Group B. But we'll be jumping into the game between Tice and BunnyHoppor. We can see already them on the cameras.
And
BunnyHoppor
you see the
just just conceded,
he's like, I'm out of here, guys. We're done.
vanished. Well, he has
Yeah,
a
well,
rogue,
we
so that will be okay, right? He vanished just.
Yeah, just vanish both players, right? And then just play it under the board, and your guys are a bit cheaper. We do know that is actually playing the Miracle Rogue. That is known information as he played that earlier in the tournament.
Hmm.
And so Tice deciding to ban the Druid instead deems that the more threatening deck. And we've seen that a lot. We saw that from Nyria. He decided to ban Druid instead of Rogue because he had the Mage. And kind of the same story here for Tice. He says, you know what? My Mage has a harder time against the Druid, so I'm going to go ahead and pick on the Rogue instead.
It's a good reasoning, I would say. So from Ties, the class that was banned is actually Rogue.
His own rogue, yeah.
Yes, his own Rogue. Interesting. What do you think about the banning the Rogue? Is that something
Rogue,
you would do? Like, what do you expect if you see a quest Rogue? Do you leave it open? Do you just, you know?
yeah. Quest rogue is typically banned outright, and that's realistically a reason that you would bring Quest Rogue in the first place because it forces your opponent's ban. Otherwise, they may be able to pick a different class that you have, and that might be banned and kind of ruin your own strategy there. So, yeah, typically we see the Rogue ban unless you have a specific strategy not to do so. In this case, BunnyHoppor isn't playing Quest Rogue, and on top of that, Tice is playing the Mage. So this is one of those somewhat rare situations where you would actually ban something other than the rogue in this case. But yeah, to answer your question, rogue is a standard ban.
Which is interesting because I just like to leave it open, you know? I feel like it's a deck that you can lose because it gets the 2 Shadow Steps in the opening hand and it just rolls off right with a prep. It's like the combo you can't really win against, but sometimes it just falls to its own, and you can take advantage of that. Or if you have an aggressive lineup, then you don't really care, right?
Yeah, the rogue feels like the old combo druid. You can have a horrible start, or you can just absolutely roll over people. You know, everything and anything is on the table there. But we're going to start off in this first game between what people are calling the Gunther Mage on the side of Tice here, and on the side of BunnyHoppor, it's going to be the Paladin. And his Paladin in particular, I believe this is the mid-range Murloc Paladin. So we've had problems with N'Zoth Paladin, but looks like BunnyHoppor's not going to have that issue, at least for this match.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Well, a really bad opening for BunnyHoppor. I think he needs to just mulligan away everything. Those are not the cards that he's looking for. If he plays the Murloc version, well, he wants to have some early game, right? Ideally, at 1 drop to have it turn to Murloc as well. For Tice, even when he has like this late game with Pyroblast and Medivh in his hand already after the mulligan, having Arcanologist and the Primordial Glyph already in hand is a blessing. Something that you just can go into the mid game, sorry, with ease. And look at that.
Wow.
That's a good draw.
Yeah, it's an amazing card to have at the start for BunnyHoppor here because every single hero power is a threat because of obviously the Murloc Warrior in the deck and the Gentle Megasaurs that can really buff up your hero power. So it just puts the pressure on Tice to, you know, he feels like he needs to clear off even these hero powers every single turn.
That is true. For some reason my Skype just turned off the screen.
Mine is still up, so not sure what happened here, but I guess I'll go ahead and give my perspective. So we have Tice going to coin into the Arcanologist, does have a bit of a better board presence rather than going for the Babbling Book. And obviously won't be able to play the Secret out next turn, but can still ping off the Valfin Inquisitor if he so chooses. And BunnyHoppor does not pick up anything to buff up his Valfin Inquisitor, no Rockpool Hunter. So just going to be obviously to hero power and be on his way. Alright, so Tice actually picks up the Mana Worm here, which means that, you know, even though it seemed like he was setting up for a ping this turn, he might switch it up and instead go for Mana Worm and Babbling Book. And Mana Worm is a liability or a threat on the side of Tice to start taking out minions and getting favorable trades. The issue Tice is running into is if his opponent has War Leader coming up in the following turn, right, which will turn this Valfin Inquisitor into a 3/4, which obviously is very difficult to deal with, but Tice is going to take that chance. He's going to start putting more minions on the field. Gets another Ice Block in hand, which he doesn't really need. He already has 3 in attack, but at least it's not a completely dead draw, and that might give him enough time to burn down BunnyHoppor eventually.
Alright, I'm back.
Awesome.
Stonehill Defender. Well, that's one of the surprise cards, right, in the entire expansion that took the game by the storm. As you can see, the result. This is the result. Why the card is so powerful. You can just drop either the Stubborn Gastropod in some In some matchups, it will be an amazing card to draw, actually, like against typical aggro decks. But in the more grindy matchups, getting an additional Tyrion is nuts.
Yeah, definitely. And just having so many Tyrions to deal with your opponent can be so tricky. Thijs is not going to play out the Ice Block, going to play out this Primordial Glyph instead. And part of the reason for doing this is because if he gets a different secret, then he can play it out and kind of mess with BunnyHoppor's curve. Has a couple of options to, his name here. Kabbalah's Tome seems like the most reasonable choice because you get so many options with it. Obviously, Meteor can take out almost anything, but what do you think? I'm looking at the Kabbalah's Tome here.
I like the Kabbalah's Tome as well. First of all, like in this matchup, at some point you might actually turn your strategy from minion heavy to actually typical burn strategy, because your opponent will most likely have only one lay on hand and a Ragnaros. That's only 16 health, right? So if you be aggressive enough, just a combination of a Parables and Fireball will be enough. But look at that, he went with the Arcane Explosion instead. For a temple play. Interesting.
Yeah, I was gonna say that the dark horse candidate of those three was the Arcane Implosion, just to use, or Explosion, excuse me, to use right now and get that temple, because this is Thijs's chance to get in the chip damage with the Mana Worm and the Arcanologist, and you might not have this opportunity later on. That said, BunnyHoppor, you're not going to get much better of a consecration than this, other than using it with equality against your opponent's minions.
I'm quite surprised by that Arcane Explosion because of the fact that, as you said, you can get that chip damage on turn 5 from the Mana Worm, but at the same time you play directly into 4 cards of your opponent's deck, which are 2 Consecrations and 2 Truce of the Champions. That's like the wet dream of Paladin, to stay on curve when usually that's not the case, right? You have minions that are reactive, that you don't want to play every single turn. So if you just can put the Truce of a Champion to a use on turn 4 or the Consecration on turn 4 without being, practically overloaded for turn 5 when you use the Consecration and leave like 1 mana open, that's fantastic. But look at this! Holy moly. 2 really good turns.
Right, yeah, the BunnyHoppor able to get the cutoff off here. One consideration, or he could also go for the Finja, obviously, but
yes.
One consideration for Thijs was that one, you wouldn't really keep Consecration ever against Mage, and the other thing is that if the True Silver were to be in the hand of BunnyHoppor, Thijs still gets in the 3 damage from the Mana Worm as well as another 2, and it basically uses out the True Silver Champion, which is one of the only sources of healing in the deck as well later on in the game. So I think that Thijs was okay with True Silver, and Consecration wasn't as likely to be there, just to play a little bit of Devil's Advocate. But third Ice Block comes into the hand here, and wow, War Leader makes it so easy of a trade here for BunnyHoppor.
Just wanted to say that there will be no activation of Finja this turn, unless there will be War Leader drawn. And here it is. Perfect.
Yeah, works out absolutely amazingly here for BunnyHoppor.
It will be an absurd turn when you think about it. It of course all depends what he will pull out of this, but a second War Leader will be just nuts. No War Leader. So unfortunately just minions that have big bodies right now because of the War Leader, but at the same time you're putting them behind of a wall of the defender, and that is an amazing setup. Because your opponent is at turn 6, so either he will have to use 2 Frostbolts to get rid of the 2 key Murlocs that are being present on the board right now, so the War Leader and the Finja, and if you just take out 1, then still you either have a smashing board presence with other Murlocs because you left the War Leader, or the Finja will refill the board again.
Yeah, this is obviously a very frustrating board for Thijs to deal with. Let's see if he can pick up something with this Primordial Glyph. Shaking his head as he doesn't really pick up much. He can go for a 4th Ice Block, but doesn't feel too good to go with that. Kona Cold can stall for a little bit, but yeah, he's not too happy to see this.
Well, the Cone of Cold is unfortunately the best choice for him. So let's see. He needs to target the Finja. That's 100%. And fortunately for him, the Stunhill Defender wasn't put in a spot where he actually acts as an insurance against cards like Cone of Cold. So slight misplacement from BunnyHoppor, but he just didn't thought about, second glyph, right?
Yeah, things like Meteor as well are something you need to be considerate of when you're doing that. Meteor is actually the biggest thing
Mm-hmm.
when you're talking about where to place your minions these days. But Spike Rich Teed comes out here for BunnyHoppor that can give his War Leader a second life, or his Finja a second life here, just to make it sure that it's extremely resilient.
That is true. And if you just put it on the Finja, you have chances to get the second Warrior, so you'll practically have the same board as you have right now, and you see that your opponent is struggling to deal with it.
Let me think.
Yeah, the alternative is to just go on the War Leader. The problem with that is that you're putting taunt on it, so you're allowing your opponent to be able to attack into it. It would have 7 health, leaving it vulnerable to that Firelens Portal. But if your opponent doesn't have Firelens Portal, then the rest of your board stays pretty large. So that is the upside of that.
Yeah,
But
I feel like Finja is just the win con here in this situation. In this board, it feels like a game-ending minion if he gets the buff. So I would love to see it played on the Finja. Here we go. Spike Rich Steed, one of the most obnoxious cards when it comes to value.
yeah, absolutely. It's very risky because it can get, Silencer, it can get Polymorph or what have you. But against the right classes, it's extremely difficult to deal with. And in combination with the fact that you have Tyrion or even multiple Tyrions in the deck, you're sometimes okay with your opponent using their hard removal on it.
Yeah, well, you saw 2 primordial glyphs. First one was an First one was an Arcane Explosion, and the second one was Cone of Cold. So, yeah, it's obvious your opponent is just has no answers to the board at all. So if you just put the biggest threat to even a bigger range, you probably just win the game, close out it really easily. Harrison Jones, well, that's actually pretty decent. Even if your opponent will have a chance to slam that Medivh on the board.
Yeah, right on time here for BunnyHoppor as he picks it up right before Thijs could potentially play the Medivh. Very, subpar turn from Thijs in the past turn. Didn't want to use the Fireball either to the face or any of these minions. And just kind of struggling to get there as BunnyHoppor continues to put on the pressure.
Well, he definitely didn't want to play the Violence Portal, because if he puts a minion on board, most likely BunnyHoppor will be able to land another trigger from the Finja, and that spells disaster. But the problem is, if your opponent will keep on slamming minions on curve, and you have no way of dealing with them, you just delaying the inevitable.
Absolutely, and looks like with nothing else to do here, Thijs is just going to go for the Medivh Guardian, and that's just going to not only refill BunnyHoppor's hand, but just not going to have much impact in the first place.
Well, it's 6, 10, 12, 13, 14 damage. There's, of course, an Ice Block out. But it's very actually close to just finishing up the game and breaking the ice, if there would be a weapon on BunnyHoppor's side. But there's none. But there's a chance if he plays the Harrison Jones, he can actually get the True Silver Champion. He doesn't go for it. Alright. So he goes for the more control-y version of the turn, which is fine because he's so much ahead, so far ahead. It doesn't really matter what he does, at least in my eyes. There's no Doomsayer Frost Nova here.
Looks like he's going to go for a pull of something first. Although you'd attack it with your Hydrologist first in that case. Okay, no, he's gonna buff up his Finja.
Yeah.
And so
what he does is that he wants to get the Murlocs first out of the deck and then play Harrison Jones, so he decreases the chances of drawing actually Murlocs.
Right.
Ooh, look at Ty's reaction.
Yeah. Although we do see that Harrison might have pulled the True Silver. Obviously with the Murlocs out of the deck, that's not exactly the case, but it could have been the case, and he could have, popped the block right now. And even with 3 ice blocks, I don't think that Thijs is going to be able to get out of this one. You never say never with Mage, though. And one thing to keep in mind is that there's no room to play Ragga Light Lord, so this might be Thijs' chance to start pushing damage to the face and just kind of hoping he gets there.
That's his only chance. He has 21 damage right now. That's his only chance of winning the game. So he needs to go for Arcane Intellect this turn, maybe? Arcane Intellect, Fireball the face. Yeah, I don't like the Violence Portal first, because that puts up the minion, so it gives your opponents options to trade first.
Right. He does only have so many chances to be able to do this, though. and it's the most expensive bird in his hand. And perhaps he thinks that, you know, if the Rag the Light Lord comes out, it will heal the Finja instead.
That's a point. Yes.
So,
But at
you
the
know,
same time, your opponent might actually sacrifice Finja because.
that is true. That is also a possibility here. Is BunnyHoppor is just going to go ahead and make sure he's as safe as possible.
Yeah, Thijs just shakes his head. He knows it's over. How can you even let's say the most ridiculous scenario, right? You play your Alexstrasza because your opponent is at 28, so you deal the 13 damage right now, and still the Light Lord is up, and it will deal damage, and sorry, it will heal the damage. So there's no way, with already 2 glyphs used, to get that burn needed, and to deal with Ragnaros.
Right.
To finish
So,
the game.
yeah, so Tice needs to damage something, point burn to face, put the ice block up, and then somehow have a way where he doesn't get it popped, and then he ice blocks again. It's just, yeah, it's a really tough spot to be in. Gonna go fishing right now with the Arcane Intellect, see what he can't pick up, and it's a whole lot of nothing. I wouldn't be surprised to see a concede right now. He just doesn't have the reach.
Well, he is actually thinking about still playing. Although you can see how he shakes his head. He knows
Right.
it's so hard to pull it off. Like, even if he plays the second apprentice, plays the fireball to the face, your opponent is at 22. You didn't ping any of the minions. So even if you will ping something, let's say you ping Tyrion in this case, or Ragnaros, there's a 50-50. He heals himself, but still you're not doing any damage this turn. Next turn you need to play your second ice block, third ice block, and you're out of ice blocks in general.
Right, and just no burn after that. Even if Rag somehow heals something, not the face, every single turn, he's already at 28. Speaking of BunnyHoppor, so
yeah,
it's not even like he's in any trouble whatsoever.
Even an Alexstrasza doesn't really make a difference here.
Right. You'd have to have Alexstrasza, you'd have to have the burn afterward. And he's already played 2 primordial glyphs.
Yes.
So it's hard to get the discount there and to get, massive burst damage, like the 3 fireballs, for instance.
What else can he do? Maybe he runs a Kabbalist Tome. Maybe he has a Cabal Courier, a second one, and he can get a Kazakus. And that Kazakus will give him mass polymorph and 10 armor.
Yeah, that's basically what it comes down here for Tice. I'm not even sure that he's gotten rid of all of his duplicates. I think he still has a few left in his deck, but
might be.
Yeah, it basically comes down to that. What do you think about playing just super safe here as BunnyHoppor and putting this Striker Seed onto his Light Lord just to make sure that guy never dies? But yeah, here is potentially Tice's chance. Gonna go for that. Death is pretty good at just getting rid of the Light Lord.
Yes, that's true. He can play the Death, kill the Light Lord, play another Ice Block, because Ice Barrier is not enough. There's just too much damage, too much pressure on the board.
Yeah, absolutely. Still just grasping at straws as Tice has made no progress toward damaging BunnyHoppor's face, and so this is just something the 11 will, it seemed like. And after this turn, I think that Tice will finally give it up.
Imagine if he would actually get the Kazakus, play every single duplicate, and have the Mass Polymorph and 10 armor. Would it be possible to still live? If BunnyHoppor would just leave 5 minions on board, then yes. No, never mind. Not possible, because he has Spike Steed and True Silver Champion.
Right. So with the 10 armor, so it'd be 5 on board, 7, and then 11 with the True Silver. So yeah, even with that, BunnyHoppor would still have the opportunity to finish off the game. But BunnyHoppor's just crossing everything off, or crossing every T and dotting every I. But yeah, go ahead.
No, never mind. That doesn't really matter here. I mean,
yeah, we're just making things up right now at this point, right? It's like, yeah, Ty's just making sure that he has everything, but there's really no way. I'm gonna go ahead and ping himself, and game number 1 goes over to BunnyHoppor.
3 ice blocks. Usually that's something that wins you the game, but you need board presence. So in retrospect, I feel like Thijs probably made the correct decision to go with that Arcane Explosion from the Glyph when we were wondering about that Kabbalah
Hmm.
Storm. But at the same time, you never know, right? Because you have no certainty of what will happen from that Kabbalah Storm, especially when it actually comes for free mana. You can, the practicality of dividing the mana cost for 2 mana with the glyph and 3 mana on the auto turn is actually something that is puts that card from being, a reasonable card to actually a decent card.
Right, and you have to keep in mind that Tice's whole deck list, right? The version he's running runs the 2 Sorcerer's Apprentice, so it's very much more in line with trying to get that board, trying to aggressively push for tempo, rather than going for the massive value that some of the other decks are designed to do. And so playing toward the theme of his deck there, trying to get as every advantage that he could, but unfortunately the Consecration wasn't in hand there for BunnyHoppor, and he's going to take that 1-0 lead here. BunnyHoppor. Let's see what he decides to go with next. Gonna go with the Miracle Rogue. His last deck
Interesting.
is, by the way, his last deck is N'Zoth Shaman, so that's something to keep an eye on as we move forward.
Okay, looking forward to that. But now we have a really decent opener for Thijs. Turn 1 Mana Vamp into turn 2 Arcanologist. It can only get better if you have a coin in your hand. But this is not the case. BunnyHoppor will end up with 2 coins because he has the counterfeit coin in his hand already. Razzlepetal Lasher is like, I think like it's the most underrated card in that deck because it puts so much things going on for the rogue. It's a 2-drop that gets some pressure off your back and gives you a spell that either can be used for a combo or for the Gazeton in the future. I really love that card.
BunnyHoppor keeping an Eviscerate, which is not something you typically see, but I guess he just doesn't want to fall too far behind. And
Definitely.
is he going to commit to it now? He could actually just go a coin Eviscerate just to make sure that this Mana Worm doesn't get out of control. If you think about it this way, you would definitely Eviscerate a 4/3 Mana Worm, so might as well. There's argument to be made to kill it right now before it starts messing around with your health total.
But it all depends. What do you predict your opponent will do from his mulligan? He kept I remember 1 card, right, Thijs? So you can count him on having a 2nd drop. So you know that the mana will most likely will not be too powerful on turn 2, so it's only 1 damage coming to you. So I guess you don't have to Eviscerate, and at the same time you can get decent turns with, preps and stuff like that, which can happen here. There's a lot of options for BunnyHoppor here. It's actually really a lot of options.
Yeah, this is how Miracle Rogue typically works, right? There's so many ways to go about your turns, and that's why people like to call it one of the more skilled decks to pilot, every single variant of the Miracle Rogue, that is. But we'll see how he goes about this one. Gonna go ahead and just play the Razzlepetal Lasher here, which allows him to combo pretty easily that Eviscerate without using the coin or the prep.
I like this, to be honest, and it's the slowest play you can do on turn 2, but at the same time, your minion most likely will help you out getting some pressure out of it, out of the board. So I like it, and definitely helps with the turn 3. You can even go, like, if the situation would be dire, you can go for the prep, Fan of Knives, and you still have mana for Razzlepetal and the Eviscerate to take out like the biggest threats. So there will be a lot of options of dealing mass damage. So I like this.
Speaking of options, what do you think about this from Thijs? I think I like the Mirror Image just to continue that aggressive stance.
I like the Greater Arcane Masters as well. When you think about it, the Rogue is one of the decks that have no way of healing themselves, right? So whatever damage you do to their face, it's permanent. Unless they get something interesting out of hallucination, right? That's the option. So it might be like an ice barrier. In this case, we know it's ice block, but how often that happens, right?
Well, we'll see if BunnyHoppor deciding to, pull the trigger on the prep right here. Gonna go with the fan and start dealing with this board as much as possible. Looks like he can clear the board now that he's used the prep fan. So Razzlepetal into the Sorcerer's Apprentice and Eviscerate onto the remaining Mana Worm. And that will slow down Thijs quite a bit, and won't be able to play 4 mana greater arcane missiles, but maybe the next turn.
But I think you can always go for the second prep for for the pod, right? Mimic pod.
Yeah, I think he just wants to hold on to prep potentially for gadgets in future turns. That said, if he does go for it, puts the arcane down to 5,
And he can play it next turn.
Right, exactly.
Interesting turn. But at the same time, the Mimic Pod is a play that you can play next turn, and your opponent is out of pressure from his side. So it seems like a decent turn to just play the Mimic Pod without the help of the preps.
Yeah. What BunnyHoppor can do now? Probably not the best time to play the Vile Spine Slayer, but
I like it. I like it. I like it. It gets down the giant to 6 mana, and you have already a board presence that your opponent will need to deal with. It's still far away from Violence Portal, which is the best answer to the Slayer. So I like it. What you propose with it, just coin the Slayer right now.
Yeah. You are worried about dealing with potentially Medivh or Alexstrasza or not, Alexstrasza or what have you in the future, but getting the pressure on right now potentially prevents your opponent from doing that ever in the first place. Looks like he's just gonna go for the Mimic Pod instead, but this is pretty slow, and
it's getting even slower.
Yeah, yes, he's allowing Thijs to just put the pressure on, keep that on to his face, and we'll see if the Greater Arcane Missiles just comes out right now for 9 damage to the face. That would bring BunnyHoppor down to, let's see, 17 and then down to 15.
With the Fireball already in hand and the Violence Portal. So that's 7 damage next turn. That's 16, that's 21. That's almost lethal. Just getting a Frostbolt is enough.
Yeah, and not to mention just pinging down every single turn and having that inevitability. Plus, BunnyHoppor, yeah, he does have a Mage spell in hand, but they typically don't get healing. They can get an Ice Barrier, but that's about it.
Yeah, and, well, what are the chances of getting an Ice Block, right? Not hard. So...
Even through the Ice Block, though, if you ping them down to 1, it just, delays the inevitable in a sense. If this were, a situation where BunnyHoppor has 1 turn on Thijs and he's pushing his own lethal damage, then that's one thing. But I think that Thijs can get pretty close. Then he can just finish him off. But here come the Gaddisons and gonna start cycling through his deck and prep the Ice Block here. And the biggest thing here for Thijs' sake is that he doesn't know what this is, right? So he can't. Yeah. He could get something counterspelled. He could get something spellbender. You really don't know.
Counterspell will be disastrous. Spellbender is actually disastrous as well because he can't play Fireball. So it seems like the Greater Arcane Missiles might be the best choice to play it here. Although, you can't really use the hero power that turn, so it's kind of awkward. But at the same time, you don't want to play into the Spellbender. But he goes into it. He goes for it, fireballing the Gadsden, gets 3 damage to the face, puts his opponent at 20. So he knows it's not Counterspell, it's not Spellbender. It might be Mirror Entity, it might be Ice Barrier. Ice Block. It can't be Ice Barrier because he just attacked. So...
Yeah, it can't be Vaporized either. You saw him counting on his fingers, like, not this, not that, not that. He's basically down to Ice Block and Mirror Entity at this point. Because it can't even be Mana Bind, right? So.
Alright. Still 2 turns away from Alexstrasza, and it's not looking great. It's not looking great.
Being able to play this Arcane Giant is a pretty big deal for BunnyHoppor. The one thing going for Thijs, though, is he does have 2 Ice Blocks, so he potentially can start racing, but looks like he's going to instead opt to try to continue to fight for the board. He has a pretty nice shaped body there, but can get taken out, and then Thijs will have to again put some effort into killing the giant.
It's funny that nowadays Miracle Rogue actually plays the best tempo card since Tempo Rogue. Like the Slayer is just insane when it comes to the tempo value they get.
Yeah, they're just I can just play that card. It's not a spell, but I'll take it.
Well, that's a good draw. You don't rely on any other spells that are dealing damage right now, because you have 100 certainty that you can kill the Arcane Giant right now.
Yeah, certainly the case. Wow, these are subpar to say the least.
Let's say that Thijs doesn't have really good options with the glyphs and the Cabal Couriers today.
Yeah, not at all.
You are on fire.
But let's see what he decides to do here with the 3 remaining mana. He could just play the Barrier out. He could just start pinging this board down to make for a little bit better of a Granite Arcane Missiles. Yeah, doesn't really need to commit the Ice Barrier right now.
He pings off the 1/1 Pirate instead of the Falnos. So what's the reason? What do you think? Like, does he have to read that there are no more spells in the hand?
Yeah, he's already seen Fan, so unlikely for that to be the case. Backstab doesn't really make a whole lot of difference. And a lot of times BunnyHoppor, he might have to trade in his own Thanos, which he's going to do here. So kind of a risk, but a lot of times it pays off, as you can see.
Yeah, but it doesn't look great for Thijs. Look at that. BunnyHoppor has all minions in his hand. And there's a 1 mana 8/8. Shaman, take that.
Yeah, I mean, from BunnyHoppor's perspective, he can go Sharazin, Arcane Giant, and SI this turn.
I wonder.
That is pretty disgusting. And then on the backside, behind that, if he ever finds a turn to, reactivate the Sharazin, essentially it's a perfect turn to also play the questing. So
yeah,
if ever,
please go.
Yeah, I'm just saying, if ever he has, it looks like he's gonna go with the questing now. But the funny thing is the crazy synergy between questing, Sharazin, and Edwin, right? Because while you're completing one, you're doing, crazy work with the other.
Yeah. I like this thing more than just playing the agent here. Like the 4/4, like every single card here right now is a threat. Every single one. Flame Strike would be fantastic for Thijs, but still doesn't deal with the 8/8, so he's still getting smashed to his face with that. So for Thijs now, there's the time of reflection. What will I want to do this game? I can just go all in, play Alexstrasza, deal 5 damage to my opponent's face, but he knows this is most likely an Ice Block right now. He checked for Mirror Entity as well.
Yeah, and this all goes back to a few turns ago when Thijs decided he wanted to play for the board, wanted to play a little bit safer, and we could kind of see from looking at both hands that, even with the Ice Block up, Thijs probably gets there quickly enough before, BunnyHoppor's able to do anything about it.
Yep. That's true.
But the Firelands Portal comes out here. Let's see what he can get off of it. Is also the Mirror Image. Wow, Viridite Hydra, not too bad. Not a whole lot of... not many ways here for BunnyHoppor to take advantage of that.
But at the same time, he has the second Slayer. Like, it can be every single minion in the game. If it doesn't have a Death Rattle, it doesn't really matter. Like, it's the same. Like, the Slayer is no racist. It doesn't really care.
So many.
It kills everything equally.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, BunnyHoppor, let's see what he decides to go for here. I wonder if he wants to hold on to this Cold Sorcerer just for the spell damage. I don't think it matters all too much. He could just throw that out there, activate the Valspine Slayer, take out a couple of Mirror Images, take out the Battling Book with his face, push 8 damage to his opponent's face. But, looks like he doesn't value the coin as much as a Cold Sorcerer. Or he values it, he values it less, which I don't know, I kind of like having the coin with Gadgetzan. He's gonna do something different here.
This guy's tough.
Okay, he's just getting extra damage to face, it looks like.
Yep.
So, by doing it this way, he gets an extra 5 damage to face via that Sharazin, putting his opponent down to 6.
To be honest, a very similar situation to the previous game. Like, it almost looks the same. Although the Rogue is just changed from Paladin, right?
Yeah, the thing is, I don't know if Thijs had an opportunity ever to win the first game, whereas I think he did have an opportunity to win this game, and he kind of just switched gears, yeah.
Like the turn when he decided to Violent Portal the Giant, right? Instead of the face, just go all out aggressive, made the difference.
Well, even fireballing the Gadgetzan Auctioneer, right? He could have just fireballed the face.
Yeah, that's true. Although I can understand the fear of just letting the auctioneer go out for the second turn, right? Spells disaster. But at the same time, your opponent already did draw like 4 cards.
Right.
So how many spells is he left with? When those new modern miracle rogues have actually not that many spells.
Yeah, the fear from Tyson's perspective, I suppose, is he fireballs the face, and your opponent goes on a massive turn, gets 2 Arcane Giants on the field, and you don't have enough time to kill your opponent. But that's still 2 turns away from your Ice Block being popped, and you have 2 Ice Blocks in hand. And obviously, he was a bit worried about the Ice Block on the side of BunnyHoppor, potentially. But yeah, did not work out, to say the least, here for Tice.
Definitely. The second Ice Block, not a help right now
Many options.
at all.
I think that BunnyHoppor could easily just play out a Tempo Gaddison right now. I mean,
Yeah.
he has a 3rd one, so...
You don't really care, right? Although you might actually play the one that you draw, because Tice might not have paid attention which card was played from the Mimic Pod.
Right, but it does say create my Mimic Pod regardless, so he will get that information. And so just giving his opponent slightly less information, concealing the second Gaddison. Although at this point, Tice probably sees that and says, well, maybe you drew the second one. So, BunnyHoppor deciding whether or not he wants to commit the last, or 1 more minion to the field here. I'm not sure if it makes a difference. So here are our miracle strategies for Tice, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like it feels like really the same scenario happening all over again.
Right, Golem Courier
well,
into not Kazakus.
Yeah, and literally the mirror image is the best draw. That's kind of sad.
You've seen mirror images 3 times this game. One of them that wasn't chosen in favor of the Great Arcane Missile is pretty interesting. But
Man, that is just so sad. Seems like the Mage is getting swept so far.
yeah, and I was going to say that Tice was able to at least pick a reasonable matchup here, going with the Mage against the Rogue, but now that it looks like he's going to drop this one, he's in a lot of trouble, because his Mage is not a favorite whatsoever against the Death Rattle Shaman. And on the other hand, the Death Rattle Shaman has had a lot of trouble so far winning, just in general. And to be able to go against this Mage is a dream come true for BunnyHoppor.
Definitely. Especially since it runs actually a decent amount of healing, right, in the Shaman.
Right, it has 6 forms of healing, and you can...
That's more than decent, actually.
Yeah, and 4 of the forms of healing you can bounce back to your hand. So he can get as many... Well, theoretically, he can get, let's see, 14 forms of healing if he bounces all of them back, which is impossible, but, you know, typically you see something like 8 to 10 forms of healing total, which is insane.
True.
BunnyHoppor just making sure nothing crazy happens here. In a crazy world, you know, there's a 3rd Ice Block, and he takes a bunch of damage, and his Ice Block is popped, and he's in a bit of trouble, so he just needs to make sure that he does this correctly here. Yeah, sees that it is Ice Block and not Ice Barrier. If it was Ice Barrier, the game is just over. He throws in the Giant. So correct ordering. This is likely just going to be it.
He wants to put enough damage to even, you know, just play over Alexstrasza. If your opponent will have like the Alexstrasza this turn.
Yep.
He would still have it without even the second minion that he played, which was the chosen one. But Arcane Blast? That will not even help it right now. Well, still, not a difference. Tice is 0-2. The Mage is not pulling anything right now. Doesn't show up. And the Shaman will be the last deck for the BunnyHoppor.
Yeah, and like I've been mentioning, the Shaman, it's been struggling to get wins, but it's certainly the Mage is one of the decks that it can and should beat. So that all said, you know, this is a pretty big game here for both of these players, because, you know, assuming that Tice picks the Mage again, because if the Mage can somehow steal a win from the Shaman, then all of a sudden Tice is back into it and can just pick up the Shaman and get potentially a reverse sweep.
That's true. But at the same time, like we talked about this so many times already. When you're like 0-2 down in Conquest, do you just stick with the deck that you played, or you just play the other two decks to get like the morale advantage, right? If you manage to squeeze 2 more wins and then you bring it back to 2-2, doesn't matter, or doesn't it matter? I think it all depends who you're facing, right?
Well, right off the bat, we can tell our viewers that the games won and lost don't matter as far as the score is concerned in the standings. So as far as strategy overall in this tournament, that does not matter. What matters is the head-to-head record, and if there's a three-way tie and there's not a single player that beat the other two players in the three-way tie, then it goes to just they play out to see who wins, right? There's no like games won or lost. But to answer your question, now that we know that it doesn't matter as far as the standings are concerned, it really just comes down to personal preference and really time of the day, when you actually played your match, because sometimes playing more matches can hurt you and make it so that you can't focus as well. Sometimes though, your opponents maybe played more than you earlier and it can affect them more than you. And also sometimes, if they're less experienced, you can have them feel the pressure. But BunnyHoppor and Thijs both a lot of experience on both of their sides, but Thijs is going to go with the Jade Druid first.
Well, Thijs has 3 matches today.
Right, that is
3
true.
matches, like this one, and then 2 more, if I'm not mistaken, as the 3rd and the 4th match of the day. So that's actually quite a lot.
Yeah, fatigue might be an issue, but Thijs is kind of a beast. He just kind of lives, breathes, and everything else Hearthstone. So
Yep, definitely. When you pull out those numbers on stream, like you want to stream it every single hour of your life.
Absolutely. So, BunnyHoppor gets the Earth Elemental out of the Stonehill Defender. That might be one of the ways he can win against this Jade Druid. Otherwise, he's going to have an uphill battle. It's a very, very slow deck. You're kind of just sitting there, hero powering, and then finally you get a couple of Thing from Belows and Spirit Echo that, and you kind of go crazy later on, but in the early stages of the game, you're just hoping that your opponent doesn't mess with you, so you can hero power a lot.
That's true, and if Thijs wouldn't draw that Wildgrowth, the plan could have actually worked. But now, when Thijs has a decent opening with the Jade Idol into the Wildgrowth, while having a half of an Innervate, because he was meant to be playing second, that puts him ahead on the board by a huge margin. And now BunnyHoppor has to make a decision. Do I want to invest into the Elf Elemental? Most likely it will die this turn, will take some value with it. But the problem is you cannot play the Spirit Echo after it, right? Because you don't want to get just the Elf Elemental. Well, if this Stonehill Defender would have been alive, then maybe yes. But it's either this or that. So either the Elf Elemental dies or the Stonehill Defender dies. And then the Spirit Echo will not have enough value.
Right, but one thing that pushed this decision to play the Earth Elemental over the top is the pick of the Manatite Totem, which you can potentially hide behind your Earth Elemental and provide you a lot of value in that way. And one of the things here for Thijs, I think he's reaching for this Jade Behemoth, and he's saying, I don't really need to deal with this right now. I would rather just build some more board tension. It's a bit weak to something like Lightning Storm, but not completely run over by that. And he's going to utilize the power of this Park Reaper, but like I mentioned, that's something that can get a bit punished by putting the Manatite Totem behind it.
True. White Eyes being drawn. Well, that is good value for Spirit Echo. But still really far away when it comes to that card.
All right, well, Thijs being able to put all this on the board kind of proves me wrong a little bit here, because if BunnyHoppor trades into the Jade Behemoth on the left, then the Jade Golem kills off the remainder of that, and then the rightmost Jade Behemoth can take out the Manatite Totem. But still, BunnyHoppor, this being a matchup where a lot comes down to tempo, still going to do it anyway.
I like it. I mean, you're behind on board. You need to get back into the game somehow. So getting more cards is the usual way. Nourish to replenish that hand. Fantastic draw.
Yeah, absolutely huge here, because he had some things to do, but was running out of gas a little bit. And for Thijs, curious to see what he decides to do. He could potentially just keep building up these Jades and then nourish afterward.
Luckily for BunnyHoppor, he has 2 volcanoes, so that will help a lot in the current state of the game, especially when he still thinks that he's ahead in card advantage. The nerves will prove him wrong, but still it's a nice perspective for him.
Alright, so Thijs is actually going to cycle into his deck, realizing that he needs the tempo from, you know, the 1-mana Jade Golems coming out of his deck. He's actually just going to face tank this Earth Elemental, and he's seen this deck in action before. He knows that there isn't a whole lot that it can do as far as, you know, bursting your opponent down.
Yeah, down. There's no lava burst to finish off. Whoa. That's not really the best thing you want to do. You want to get out of the dirty rat, a 4/8 minion just like that. Will he use the hex? Yes, he will.
I think that BunnyHoppor read into Thijs' play that was a Gadgetzan Auctioneer because he cycled it into his deck.
Well, would he?
And he wanted to stop the draw because he put the Jade Idols into his deck, right? So he probably thought, okay, Gadgetzan.
But you can
plus
do that
spell.
with the Gadgetzan on board and still get the draw, right? So if you have another spell in your hand, you can actually cycle it the same turn. So I'm not sure that was like a 100% read, but you might be right actually.
Right. Well, the thing is, if you put the Jade Idols in the deck first, you don't have to start off with a Jade Idol, right? Doesn't have to be a requisite part of your turn. You can do other things as well first, especially if you have other spells. So, a lot of times you do see players go for the the cycle into the deck and then Gadgetzan because it's slightly more consistent. Oh, BunnyHoppor didn't get the Gadgetzan, had to use the Hex onto just a Primordial Drake, which, you know, not exactly does. He doesn't get the Battle Cry, does Thijs, but I think it's a pretty hefty minion on the field for free anyway. Looking at this board here, health is on the board. Can this get volcanoed?
3, 8, 13, 16. Almost.
Almost. We're almost there. The frog. It's always the frog. Just that extra.
Yeah, probably
extra
will
little
that
health.
4/2 will not get killed. Will be alive with 4/1.
Yeah, I think that BunnyHoppor is okay with the Tar Creeper staying alive. Yeah. So
There it is. Look at that.
oh.
It doesn't
Alright,
want to go for the thing from below here. It kinda makes sense. You can hero power alongside it, right? It all depends what kind of hero power you will get.
I think we might see BunnyHoppor just hero power and pass though, because he's really been saving for the thing from below and Spirit Echo. So if he hero powers right now, he will have 7 mana next turn, and then next turn he can go for. Well, I guess that doesn't leave him the ability to go for White Ice plus Spirit Echo. So yeah, he's 3 turns off of doing this. This is the issue with the deck, right? While Druid is going crazy with the Jade Golems. On the side of BunnyHoppor, he's like, I'm overloaded. I can't do my super combo yet.
That is true. Like you can fall so far behind.
That's how the other volcano though to kind of bring himself back potentially.
Well,
Here comes a Gadgetzan turn. Wild Growth turns into a Nurse all of a sudden when you have Gadgetzan on the field.
I wonder if the deck would play actually Elemental Destruction instead of the Volcanoes, if it would still be in the standard.
Yeah, most well, it depends, right? It's a different type of damage.
Yeah, it can deal with one big minion, that's the problem. But it can deal with multiple big minions at the same time, like more reliably. So it's a kind of different of a card, but kind of similar effect, but still different. The same, but different. If you know the meme.
I don't. My meme game is not so on. Sorry. But all right. Well, with the volcano here and a hero power. I mean, if he's forced to volcano, right? If he deems this necessary to volcano.
That's kind of sad.
Yeah, it is pretty sad. But that Gadgetzan could just spawn by himself. You know, whatever the Jade counter is. You know, 6, 6, 7, 7, 8, 8, 9, 9 by itself. So.
I mean, it can end the game if Thijs will hit the chain of Jade Idols. It will be GG. That volcano will not be enough.
Exactly. Neither will devolve if he picks that up because they just potentially get bigger, and the Jade Golems themselves are not the most efficient uses of or efficient stats that you get.
Yeah, exactly. And most likely your opponent will not have a free drop that can turn into a Doomsayer. So, yeah, no chance of that happening. Okay, so there's a small chance of getting that Jade Idol rolling. Let's see. There's one draw. No.
Oh, so it's Aya, so it's actually not too bad. If you're not gonna draw a spell, you know, sometimes you just want to get Aya.
But you can also just play Swipe, have another chance to draw Jade Idol, and still kill the White Eyes with your hero power, and I like that a lot. You leave your Gadsden alive.
Yeah, and even more resilient with the Earthen Scales now.
And
Yeah, well, here we go.
oh my god.
Yeah, this is basically how it goes in this particular matchup. The Druid does things like this, and the Shaman just sits back and watches.
Okay, so I like actually the Pharaoh Rage here if he really wants to get that Jade Idol. I don't know how many cards does he have left in the deck. I feel like around 11. So those are like 3 Jade Idols still there. So if he plays that Pharaoh Rage, there was a chance of getting it still this turn.
Yeah, but he has another gadget in hand, so it's not that urgent.
Yeah, I guess. But man, this turn. If you were to get just one Jade Idol, probably would spell GG for BunnyHoppor. But fortunately for him, now he has a small chance of bouncing back. The Volcano seems like a bit of a more optimal play than it was the turn before. But at the same time, what about Nzov? What are the targets? There's the White Eyes. There's one Dirty Rat.
For Nizal?
Yeah. That's about it, right? Nothing more.
Oh, he doesn't bring back... He only brings back the Death Rattle, so the Dirty Rat.
Yeah, what am I talking about? Dirty Rat. Yeah, it's only White Eyes in this case.
Right,
For some reason, I thought about Death Lord.
Yeah, they're pretty similar. I wonder if there will be a card in the future that does something similar to that. Just bring back all the taunts. That would be kind of annoying, but yeah, just a tough spot here for BunnyHoppor.
He goes for Nzov. So what did we forget apart from the White Eyes? Oh right, no, only the White Eyes. Huh.
Yeah. Fortunately, just that, and this probably spells the beginning of the end here for BunnyHoppor if he's forced to do a play like this. I'm not really sure what this even accomplishes.
Yeah, this is like a desperation move, right? Because if there would be like a case to play Nzov, it would be the reasoning behind it would be to play so many minions on board that the Druid has no way of dealing with all those minions, so you can push for lethal damage. Or even just play, you know, Spirit Echo at that point.
Right, but you know, rather than having a massive board on the side of the Shaman, instead it's a massive board on the side of the Druid that the Shaman can't deal with, and this is going to likely be it.
5,
No.
12, 14, 20, 25 damage on the board. 4 ties, so even if he plays Volcano this turn, let's say he attacks into the 7/7, deals 5 damage to it, kills its own Zov, the Volcano will have 2, 5, 8, 14, 19 health on the board.
Yeah, and then Aya is most likely to die, so you're putting an
Yeah.
8/8 on the field. So
That doesn't really feel great. So what are the other options? You can go hero power, Think from Below for 0 mana, so you can have some presence with the Spirit Echo, but at the same time you don't really get anything else out of it. All the options feeling suboptimal, so bad.
yeah, there's a little gear on the right side of the bottom right side of the game field, right? And then you can press that, and there's an option where you can actually concede the game. I think that might be it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting strategy. Look at that, Fandral for 0 mana. Seems like a decent card. Man, this is just rolling. This is out of control.
Well, does Thijs have lethal right now? This is a nice, good old lethal puzzle for you guys at home. Let's see if he has it here. He can swipe the Dirty Rat, which does the most damage as far as, you know, getting most damage to face, because then you can
Attack with
use
Spirit, right?
Yeah, and then use your Feral Rage, that doesn't actually go the most damage because you're leaving some on the field. Looks like it's gonna go for it
6,
anyway.
15,
20.
16, 21, right? So that's the evil.
Yeah.
All right.
Double triple checking, because if you're gonna do this, then you might as well. You need to make sure, because you're in such a massive lead. But Thijs is gonna take game number 3. Get this a little bit of a closer series.
1, 2. Thijs is getting back on track. He checked marked his Druid, but still is left with that Mage.
Yeah, the Mage is the issue here, as gonna have to get through a whole lot of healing on the side of BunnyHoppor. The other deck that Thijs has is the Paladin, which is, your standard mid-range Murloc Paladin.
Mm-hmm.
Now that actually is not a very good matchup either, because BunnyHoppor, it depends, right? I gotta be completely honest, this matchup doesn't come up a whole lot. In theory, BunnyHoppor has the answers, but a lot of times if you play it very skillfully on the side of the Murloc Paladin, you can space out your threats and make things like a board of 1/1 Murloc, hero
Exactly.
powers, something that your opponent has to deal with.
Well, it's very similar to just, let's say, the old timers will remember the Control Paladins playing against Control Warriors. They were just winning because of the 1/1s from the hero power. Because you just go wide every single time and the warrior just runs out of answers at some point.
Right.
It might be similar here.
Yeah, we'll see how Thijs navigates. It certainly requires a lot of restraint and a lot of because you can't put too little on the board, or else your opponent doesn't have to respond to it. Or they can just respond to it using single target or just developing their own board. But if you put too much on the board, it can get eaten up by a mass AoE. So we'll go to Thijs 2. Determine that, and they side up BunnyHoppor. It's time to start hero powering.
That is a speedy gameplay. Look at that. 2 mana. I mean, 2 mana, 2/3 being played on board. It's a Murloc, so it has the ability to get buffed by the Wall Eater, but it doesn't really matter right now. And I guess BunnyHoppor will just hero power.
Yeah, the Rockbow Hunter is just such a threat. It can turn to a 4/4 the next turn and just start really wreaking havoc.
But at the same time, you have answers for days. You have Volcano, you have Lightning Storm. Your deck runs so many healing cards that you can actually just ignore those Murloc for some time.
You can ignore them up to a point, up until they get Gentle Megasaur and get +3 attack, or Wind Fury.
That's true. Divine Shield might be kind of annoying as well, right? In this case.
Yeah,
Gateway Kodo. That seems like a good choice. Although Repentance is not bad as well. The opponent is running cards like Dirty Rat, well, he doesn't have Earth Elemental, right? But he has Wide Eyes. There's a lot of targets that have more than enough HP to warrant the Repentance, but at the same time, Gateway Kodo brings so much value for Thijs.
Yeah, definitely. So just decided to go for that in the end. The one thing that's tricky about the Repentance is this is such a bizarre deck. You're not even sure when their power turns are. Typically their power turns are combos. They like to just play things from below and get the Spirit Echo on, and then at that point your Repentance doesn't really work at all, because it just comes back. And, that's what Thijs is thinking about right here. It's like, when am I actually going to use this? And he says, you know what? Let's just get the Gateway Kodo.
True that. In this case, like, if your opponent will actually kill a minion, the biggest chances of killing a minion is Gentle Megasaur. That leaves your Murlocs alive. That means you can just replay it next turn and you get another buff from your minions.
Yeah, the biggest, I think, deciding factor for Thijs there was, all the minions in the field. He'd be like, oh, I would be perfectly happy to get any of these back in my hand.
Yes, but what he will get back will most likely be a frog at some point. So,
well, potentially. We'll see how.
Oh, he actually goes for the Volcano. Okay.
Yeah. So, I'm not sure how this works. I think he gets the Rockbill Hunter back no matter how the animations go.
Yeah, I was interested as well. It seems like, yeah, he gets the first one played in this case. Which is interesting, right? Because the damage seems not to be dealt at the same time. It's more of a damage that goes over time. But it would mean if that would be the case, then Death Rattle minions would be spawned like mid
Exactly.
volcano, right? And that's kind of sad. So I guess that's how it should work.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, this allows Tice to get a couple of 4/4s in the field, make his War Leader that much more resilient. The BunnyHoppor is, I believe, running Tidal Surge in his deck, so that is a pretty big deal that he's overloaded. Because, you know, even if he had that in hand, wouldn't be able to deal with the War Leader right now. Outside of Hex.
And even if he hexes, still doesn't really take care of the bigger minions that the opponent will play, because the trademark of that Paladin is the fact that not only you play early game threats, but you're curving out into really powerful minions around turn like 6 to 8. And all of those 3 that Tice runs are in his hand already. There's the Tarim, there's the Light Lord, and there's the Tyrion.
And then there's another Tyrion from the Stonehill Defender.
Oh yeah, right, I forgot about that one.
Yeah, just more Tyrions. And another Tyrion.
Yeah. And speaking of big minions, that's also a really big one.
Fun fact, by the way, if the Sunkeeper Terran comes down, this Rock Bolt will turn into a 5/4 because it gets buffed to a 3/3 and then rebuffed. Stonehill into Stonehill seems pretty good. The Wicker Flame is...
Nah, I
in some
like
matchups... Yeah, Wicker Flame in some matches is okay, but it's not good enough in this matchup.
Yeah, in some matchups it's amazing, but an example, like, I don't like it against Pirate Warrior even. Like, the 2 attack is not really enough. It just gets you 4 heal and deals some damage to some minions, that's about it. So... yeah.
It does get in the way, so there is something to be said about that. But BunnyHoppor feeling the pressure here. Maelstrom Portal into a Storm could potentially clear this board if he gets decent rolls. But that's obviously pretty risky. On the other hand, if he goes for board development of his own, he's facing a lot of damage potentially.
Yeah, and the Dare to Ride is not looking great when your opponent plays 2 Stonehill Defenders. I mean, that actually matters, because the first one, if it would have a good target, it would pick it. And the second one just gives you more options. So there's a bigger chance of getting a decent target for the upcoming turns that has... So by that, I mean a high cost mana minion. So the rat is not really looking appealing at all.
Yeah, so goes for just the biggest thing he can possibly put in the field in that Cairn. And for Tice, let's see how much damage can he push. If he throws the War Leader to face first and then plays the Sunkeeper Terran, he pushes 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
But he needs to deal with the totem first, so he needs to sacrifice 1 attack.
Right. Oh, looks like Wicker Flame's going to be hitting the field here just to be as resilient as possible.
I like this. I like this because he puts a lot of minions on board, so his Tarim actually gets more board presence for the upcoming turn. He pushes enough damage to actually threaten lethal, and that means his opponent needs to invest in a lot of board clears. And fortunately for BunnyHoppor, he has the power, unlimited power.
Yeah, full board clear here with the double Lightning Storm.
Oh, look at that! Oh my God! Good thing he had the second one.
Yes, it's a good thing that he didn't try to go for it.
Wow. He only had 1/3. That's
a huge steal. That's a huge steal right now because BunnyHoppor has healing, and he has the Hex to deal with the Tyrion. Doesn't have quite enough to deal with the rest of the things in Tice's hand, but he will be able to develop.
Let me think.
No, let's see what he will do. I mean, all those minions are not really that appealing. Although I think the Primordial Drake seems like the best option. Maybe Light Lord actually. It should draw out the Hex.
Yeah, the problem with that is you might be playing right into your opponent's hand, because if you play either of those, then Tidal Surge kills both of them. And then all of a sudden you're giving your opponent more healing as well as just taking out your minion and not using a Hex. So that is the risk, obviously. But we see there's no Tidal Surge in hand. You see there was the Hex, so perhaps BunnyHoppor would have needed to use that.
What to do?
All right. Well, it puts some board pressure, and BunnyHoppor is overloaded like hell.
Can't play the Genie Water Speaker. It does reduce potentially his ability to Spirit Echo that, but BunnyHoppor's going to need some value anyway, and might have to wait for a while to use these Spirit Echoes in the future. Blessing of Kings.
That's a good draw.
So how much damage does he have now?
Well, he has +2 from the Murloc, and so that's +6. That's 10. Still not enough.
So 12 damage, it looks like. And what does he put it on? Does he go on the taunt? Yeah, he's going to go on the taunt here and protect the rest of his minions. He's already seen 2 lightning storms. He's already seen a volcano as well.
Yeah, 2 lightning storms and volcano. He didn't see a single milestone portal yet, so that can happen. But at the same time, he would be kind of happy with that, I would say. Well, that may be like, you know, euphoric, but still wouldn't be that terrible. And this is what, but he plays around it, so he trades first.
Well, does BunnyHoppor decide to utilize a hex, or if he, you know, does he decide to go for a potentially spell damage on him right now? And the hex it is, so Thijs may have free reign to play out Tyrion after this.
Yeah, but the problem is, like, I feel like BunnyHoppor is fine with that hex being used right now because of the fact that he has the ooze in hand, right? So Tyrion is not that problematic. The problematic card would be Lighter of Action more than the Tyrion in this situation. But Thijs doesn't know it, so he will play the Tyrion.
Well, BunnyHoppor doesn't technically have a way to deal with Tyrion as far as killing it right now.
That is true. That is true. Good point. All those 1/1s though now are kinda less impactful. Both War Leaders were played already, so they will never be bigger than that, apart from the second Gentle Megazord.
Yeah, second Jungle Megasaur, potentially second Rockwool Hunter, although that's not that much of a buff anyway. You're looking at a 2/2. So BunnyHoppor got his White Eyes. He can decide to Spirit Echo that if he so chooses. And probably going to be the play, looking at his situation. You can go Maelstrom Portal, White Eyes, and Spirit Echo. That means you're Spirit Echoing 5 minions, playing 3 out of your hand. So he has 3 in hand. He would get 5 back in his hand plus the draw from the egg. So I think he wouldn't overdraw. Yeah,
but
I think he wouldn't overdraw.
What do you think about playing their Tyrion at this turn as well? I mean, your opponent just played Tyrion, and there's a chance there's a big minion in the hand, but at the same time, you soaking a lot of damage, and you getting a second Rat after it gets killed. Ooh, a Weasel.
The Weasel.
That's actually pretty decent.
The Weasel's so funny because you would never put it in your own deck, but whenever you get it off of Maelstrom Portal, you're like, aha!
I gotcha. Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, look at it. Look at this. Thijs can actually play around the Ooze if he goes for the 6/6, the Tyrion attacks into the White Eyes, and then he plays Primordial Drake. But will he do it? He actually does it? No. He goes for the value. Most likely. Because he would need to hit the 50/50.
50/50 is pretty big. If it does hit, then BunnyHoppor has expended his entire board dealing with that.
Let's see, does it hit it? No, it doesn't hit it, and Thijs just shakes his head. We have seen a lot of Ragnar's rolls in the past, and this is kind of a different. I mean, it doesn't kill a minion. It was actually, you know, just wanted to be the nurse here, but it didn't work out. Not a card to put Thijs out of the misery. Like,
wait, BunnyHoppor played the Spirit Echo after he played Maelstrom Portal, correct?
No, I think wait, the Weasel died, so he should have it in his hand. So yeah, I guess
Weasel Hunter has weird mechanics. It does strange things. It might have gone into Thijs' deck twice, or it might have gone into his own deck.
Wait, what? Oh my god.
Because Weasel Hunter does weird things. It goes into your opponent's deck, but because it goes into your hand, Weasel Hunter is just absolutely bizarre. It's really hard to keep track of. I think that.
What was the wording of Weasel? When it dies, right? You put it in your opponent's deck.
right? But there's some crazy things that go on where it doesn't really follow what it's supposed to do all the time. So
That's fantastic. Thanks, Blizzard.
they do their best sometimes. But
I wonder.
Man, Thijs is really in a tough spot.
mm,
Like, if he uses the consecrations, he knows he's actually giving more fuel to his opponent.
right, now this rag is, hitting it is a really big deal.
Yes. It's a huge, huge swing if it heals themselves. Never mind, that was a hex. But still, it will be important from Thijs' perspective. And it hits face. Fantastic targeting
Wow.
from this Ragnar's. Buy me that
Wow.
scope that he has.
Yeah, pretty massive here because now BunnyHoppor can hex the Primordial Drake, take out the Rag before it causes any more trouble, continue to draw cards with the Manatide Totem, and just play the Genie Water Speaker, get out of range of anything crazy that happens, or you could just go for this as well. Just put as much stuff on the board as possible.
He just goes slow. He doesn't really care, right? Thijs is running out of cards, and BunnyHoppor's aware that the value cards for Thijs were actually drawn already, right? He saw the Light Lord, he saw the Tyrion, he saw the Primordial Drake. I think even 2 Primordial Drake so far. And yeah, so what else is left there? There's a Gentle Megazord. Wow.
Yeah, that's really about it. And this kind of is the problem with this is why people feel like they feel compelled to go for the more N'Zoth version, even though there's a bit more consistency with the Murlocs. But yeah, you can see on Ty's face like kind of not going anywhere with this one. Consecration can take this out, but not sure if it's a lasting solution.
Well, he builds the board presence. It's 2 Murlocs. That's something.
Wow, Stonehill Defender on the side of BunnyHoppor.
That's a really neat draw. Especially when you have the second Spirit Echo. So it,
Get a Wide Eyes, yeah, or an Alakir.
well, he could have also get like the second Stonehill Defender and then play Spirit Echo.
Yeah, absolutely. So does he commit to the Spirit Echo now is the question. It could allow him to get more Wide Eyes. I do like Wide Eyes.
Yeah, I do like it as well. Yeah, he knows it just doesn't really matter that much if he uses Spirit Echo right now, so he goes for a wider board. I like it a lot because it still pushes the opponent to be investing into the board. Unfortunately, both hexes were used. So that dinosaur will pop out.
Well, you can devolve it though. And
Oh, yeah,
turn
right.
into a 0-drop. So one of the better times to use that devolve. Just
That is
snaps
true.
that out of there. Very
Oh
sad
my god, who would have thought 2 Wisp appear out of nowhere?
I thought that was riding a Spiker Siege. I thought it was mounted. So. Yeah, and even if a clear comes out here from Ty, it's not gonna matter.
And it's so funny.
I'm back.
Guy.
That's where he went.
That's a huge whiff. My god. Does he have 2 of those in his deck? Maybe we'll get to see.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure.
About it actually.
Wonder.
So I'm just gonna go ahead and play this out. Just a few more minutes to play this out, worst case scenario. And I don't think he's gonna get anywhere though.
He doesn't want to play it right now. I mean the Weasel, because he knows that his opponent plays Dirty Rats. Oh, never mind. He plays it anyway. So now BunnyHoppor's like, yeah, this Dirty Rat is a 2-mana 2/8. I think I'm gonna play it right now.
Well, 2/6, but close enough.
So. Yeah, this is again because of the Deathlord.
Yeah, Deathlord. You go back to Wild. You play Wild for a little bit, start getting used to that. Let's see. Well, another Wide Eyes. That is the second Wide Eyes of the game, if I remember correctly. There's still N'Zoth in the deck for BunnyHoppor. He's already seen 1 board clear. Gonna go ahead and hold back his second thing from below because potential for second equality. But this game Seems like it's over. And Ty's just going to give it up. He realizes that there's going to be a lot of back and forth. And that's all for nothing. And BunnyHoppor is going to take the series 3-1.
That's actually huge for BunnyHoppor because he was already playing 4 games in the group, so this was the 5th game for him. Now he has actually a positive score, 3 wins and 2 losses. While Thijs, that was his 3rd game, he falls down to 1 and 2. Still a lot of chances for Thijs since he has 2 more matches today. But well played by BunnyHoppor actually. He had really some insane turns in those decks.
Yeah, he handles his Shaman very deftly. The problem is that he's just run into some bad matchups along the way. But like you mentioned, does go to 3-2. You know, the difference between the 2nd loss and the 3rd loss is going to be absolutely huge, determining who gets those top 2 spots in the group. But we'll see how this group shapes out going forward, as our next match is going to be Nyria versus Nyman, the 2 top players in this group. So you want to stick around to see that one. We'll be right back after this, guys.